Okay, I'm back. Now that I got that together, the second page of chapter 2, page 42, the very first full sentence I really liked. Just as a recovering alcoholic must avoid the first drink, the recovering artist must avoid the first think. For us, that think is really self-doubt. I don't think this is any good. So I think that that's really important. It's important, and I've been having a lot of trouble with that lately, where I'm overthinking a lot of the things that I do, and kind of like, I don't know, I keep getting into my own head and turning myself into a monster. On page 43, the third paragraph, blocked friends may find your recovery disturbing. You will be led to new sources of support as you begin to support yourself. As blocked creatives, we focus not on our responsibilities to ourselves, but on our responsibility to others. We tend to think such behavior makes us good people. It doesn't. It makes us frustrated people. I think this is a really important thing for me too, because I have a tendency toward helping other people instead of helping myself, and thinking about other people instead of thinking about myself, and how my reactions and interactions with them makes them uncomfortable, rather than worrying about making my own life something that's worthwhile. Page 44. The best thing you can do for your friends is to be an example through your own recovery. Do not let their fears and second thoughts derail you. You will discover the joy of practicing your creativity. The process, not the product, becomes your focus. Your own healing is the greatest message of hope for others. And then on page 45, there was a word, or actually a pair of words, that I thought was important to define because it was kind of complicated. Okay. So the word was internecine politics. And internecine is destructive to both sides of the conflict. So I thought that it was a word that I didn't know, and I thought that would be a good thing to give a definition to. And in context, it says, given that all filmmaking is demanding, his sets are far more so. Longer hours, long bouts of paranoia, intrigue, and internecine politics. Amid rumors that the set was bugged, this crazy maker king addressed his actors over a loudspeaker system while he, like the Wizard of Oz, secreted himself away in a large, luxuriously equipped trailer cave. And then another word, the end of the next paragraph, was concomitant demands, which concomitant is naturally accompanying or associated. So I don't know how that works out, but I found both of those words complicated and frustrating, so I decided I would get them defined. And then I didn't have any other major things to highlight until page 48, and it was the quote that's on the side of the book, which is an Eddie Cantor quote, and it says, "Slow down and enjoy life. It's not only the scenery you miss by going too fast. You also miss the sense of where you're going and why." And then page 49. If crazy makers are that destructive, what are we doing involved with them? The answer, to be brief but brutal, is that we are crazy ourselves, and we are that self-destructive. This whole section is about crazy makers, and crazy makers are people who you have invited into your life because you're also crazy, who serves to basically make you nuts, to force you to pay attention to them when you don't have the energy, to make emotional demands on you during a difficult time of your own life, who shows up unannounced, just a person who is just so unhealthy for you, but you keep them around anyway. And this entire section of the book is about these crazy makers, and I definitely sat down and was like, I can think of a few of these people. And that's not good. I keep them around, and it's not healthy at all. So this was a good chapter for me to read. I also thought of a few friends who did the same thing, where they kept crazy makers around them for a really long time before kicking them out. On page 50, all the way at the bottom, one of the things most worth noting in a creative recovery is our reluctance to take seriously the possibility that the universe just might be cooperating with our new and expanded plans. We've gotten brave enough to try recovery, but we don't want the universe to really pay attention. We still feel too much like frauds to handle some success. When it comes, we want it to go. And then a little bit further down, out there in the dazzling light, there are a lot of new ideas that we consider too far out for ourselves, and so we keep them out there. The ideas we are comfortable with are in the room with us. The other ideas are out, and we keep them out. In creative recovery, it is not necessary that we change any of our beliefs. It is necessary that we examine them. Creative recovery is an exercise in open-mindedness. Then on page 52, rather than working or living the now, we spin our wheels and indulge in daydreams of the could have, would have, should have. Page 53, the truth is, we all knew how she stood it. She stood it by standing knee-deep in the flow of life and paying close attention. And that was a quote about this great story that she shares in this book about her grandmother. And I really like this story because I feel like I kind of relate to it with my family. The flora and fauna reports I used to call the long winding letters from my grandmother. The forsythia is starting this morning, and I saw my first robin. The roses are holding, even in this heat. The sumac has turned, and the little maple down by the mailbox. My Christmas cactus is getting ready. I followed my grandmother's life like a long home movie. A shot of this, a shot of that, spliced together with no pattern that I could ever see. Dad's cough is getting worse. The little Shetland looks like she'll drop her foal early. Joanne is back in the hospital at Anna. We named the new boxer Trixie, and she likes to sleep in my cactus bed. Can you imagine? I could imagine. Her letters made that easy. Life through Grandma's eyes was a series of small miracles. The wild tiger lilies under the cottonwoods in June, the quick lizard scooting under the gray river rock she admired for its satiny finish. Her letters clocked the seasons of the year and her life. She lived until she was 80, and the letters came until the very end. When she died, it was as suddenly as her Christmas cactus. Here today, gone tomorrow. She left behind her letters and her husband of 62 years. Her husband, my grandfather, Daddy Howard, an elegant rascal with a gambler's smile and a loser's luck, had made and lost several fortunes, the last of them permanently. He drank them away, gambled them away, tossed them away the way she threw crumbs to her birds. He squandered life's big chances, the way she savored the small ones. That man, my mother would say. My grandmother lived with that man in a tiled Spanish house, in trailers, in a tiny cabin halfway up a mountain, in a railroad flat, and finally in a house made out of ticky-tacky, where they all just looked the same. I don't know how she stands it, my mother would say, furious with my grandfather for some new misadventure. She meant she didn't know why. The truth is, we all knew how she stood it. She stood it by standing knee-deep in the flow of life and paying close attention. My grandmother was gone before I learned the lesson her letters were teaching. Survival lies in sanity, and sanity lies in paying attention. Yes, her letters said, Dad's cough is getting worse. We have lost the house. There's no money and no work. But the tiger lilies are blooming. The lizard has found that spot of sun. The roses are holding despite the heat. My grandmother knew what a painful life had taught her. Success or failure, the truth of a life really has little to do with its quality. The quality of life is in proportion, always, to the capacity for delight. The capacity for delight is the gift of paying attention. It's just such a sad story, but I love it anyway. And I've thought about this story off and on over the last couple of weeks here. When I'm having a really rough morning or evening, I think about this story and I think about a person who's able to think about how bad life can be and just find some sense of happy in the small and the insignificant stuff, and it's not they make it so that it's not insignificant. Like, they make that thing important, and I find that really admirable. The reward for paying attention is always healing. On page 54, pain had become something more valuable. Experience. Pain is what it took to teach me to pay attention. The worst that can be said of a man is that he did not pay attention. The rules of the road. This is on page 55. In order to be an artist, I must show up at the page, use the page to rest, to dream, to try. Fill the well by caring for my artist. Set small, gentle goals and meet them. Pray for guidance, courage, and humility. Remember that it is far harder and more painful to be a blocked artist than it is to do the work. Be alert always for the presence of the great creator, leading and helping his or her artist. Choose companions who encourage me to do the work, not just talk about the work or why I am not doing the work. 8. Remember the great creator loves creativity. Remember that it is my job to do the work, not judge the work. 10. Place this in my workplace. Great creator, I will take care of the quantity. You take care of the quality. So there's tasks, and then there's the, I don't know what they call it. Or the check-in. There we go. So the tasks for this week, and I have them all written out over here too. The first one is the affirmative reading, which I did have trouble getting to this week. I made it through 5 of the 7 days, which I guess isn't that bad. And I did it at the same time that I did my morning pages. So affirmative reading, every day, morning and night, get quiet and focused and read the basic principles to yourself. Be alert for any attitudinal shifts. Can you see yourself setting aside any skepticism yet? Number 2, where does your time go? List 5 major activities this week. How much time did you give to each one? Which were what you wanted to do and which were shoulds? How much of your time is spent helping others and ignoring your own desires? Have any of your blocked friends triggered doubts in you? Take a sheet of paper, draw a circle. Inside that circle, place topics you need to protect. Place the names of those you find to be supportive. Outside the circle, place the names of those you must be self-protective around just now. Place this safety map near where you write your morning pages. I actually used the front page of my journal. I'm going to flip it so that you can't see it, but so it's like this is the back page, but I did it on the front page, and I just did it on this so that I could be near it whenever I needed to be. Place your safety map near where you write your morning pages. Use this map to support your autonomy. Add names to the inner and outer spheres as appropriate. Oh, Derek is somebody I shouldn't talk to about this now, for example. Number 3, list 20 things you enjoy doing. Rock climbing, roller skating, baking pies, making soup, making love again, riding a bike, riding a horse, playing catch, shooting baskets, going for a run, reading poetry, etc. When was the last time you let yourself do these things? Next to each entry, place a date. Don't be surprised if it's been 10 years for some of your favorites. This will change. This is a great resource for artist dates. From the list above, write down 2 favorite things that you've avoided. That could be this week's goals. These goals can be small. Buy a roll of film and shoot it. Remember, we are trying to win some of your autonomy with your time. Look for windows of time just for you and use them in small creative acts. Get to the record store at lunch hour, even if only for 15 minutes. Stop looking for big blocks of time when you will be free. Find small bits of time instead. Number 5. Dip back into week 1 and read the affirmations. Note which ones cause the most reaction. Often the one that sounds the most ridiculous is the most significant. Write 3 chosen affirmations 5 times each day in your morning pages. Be sure to include the affirmations you made yourself from your blurts. Number 6. Return to the list of imaginary lives from last week. Add 5 more. Again, check to see if you could be doing bits and pieces of these lives in the one you are living now. If you have listed a dancer's life, do you let yourself go dancing? If you've listed a monk's life, are you ever allowed to go on a retreat? If you are a scuba diver, is there an aquarium shop you can visit? A day at the lake you could schedule? Number 7, life pie. And this one I found really, really, really helpful. Draw a circle, divide it into 6 pieces of pie. Label one piece spirituality, exercise, play, work, friends, romance, or adventure. Place a dot in each slice at the degree to which you are fulfilled in that area, the outer rim indicating great, and then the inner circle not so great. Connect the dots. This shows where you are lopsided. As you begin the course, it is not uncommon for your life pie to look like a tarantula. As recovery progresses, your tarantula may become a mandala. And mine did. It looked completely askew. It was weird. Working with this tool, you'll notice that there are areas of your life that feel impoverished and on which you spend little to no time. Use the time tidbits you're finding to alter this. If your spiritual life is minimal, even a 5-minute pit stop at a synagogue or cathedral can restore a sense of wonder. Many of us find that 5 minutes of drum music can put us in touch with our spiritual core. For others, it's a trip to a greenhouse. The point is that even the slightest attention to our impoverished areas can nurture them. Number 8, 10 tiny changes. List 10 changes you'd like to make for yourself, from the significant to the very small or vice versa. Get new sheets so I have another set. Go to China, paint my kitchen, dump my bitchy friend Alex. Do it this way. I would like to blank. As the morning pages nudge us increasingly into the present, where we pay attention to our current lives, a small shift like a newly painted bathroom can yield a luxuriously large sense of self-care. Number 9, select one small item and make it a goal for this week. 10, go do that item. And then the check-in. How many days this week did you do your morning pages? 5 out of 7. How did the morning pages work for you? Describe them. They felt stupid. I'd write these itty-bitty disconnected things, blah, 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 blah. So my morning pages, I've said before, I think, but I've been a journaler for most of my life. So morning pages are not difficult for me to remember to do, but I don't like doing them in the morning. Up until I decided I would do this book, I've always done my journaling at night before I go to bed, just to kind of everything out, and then I could go to sleep and feel wonderful and rested when I woke up in the morning, like a new day has begun and all of the previous day's troubles are gone. And so I've been struggling to try to do this in the morning, and I think that I'm going to just start continuing to do it at night. I think I'm going to abandon this whole first thing in the morning thing, because I'm not a morning person anyway. And if I do it at night, I just feel better. And I haven't been doing it at night. I've been doing it in the morning when I remember to do it in the morning, because it's just not in my daily schedule. And so I'm just going to go back to doing it at nighttime. Number 2. Did you do your artist date this week? Remember, artist dates are a necessary frivolity. Did you do your artist date? Because I totally did. I went on an artist date. I took myself to get my nails done. I got my hair cut. I got an eye exam. I got new glasses. Yeah, it was just nice to get out. I dyed my hair and, all the normal stuff that's part of self-care, but it felt good to spend an entire day just paying attention to myself. And then number 3, were there any other issues this week that you consider significant to your recovery? And I think the only thing I have right now is the whole changing the time of day when I decide to do the morning pages, which I'm going to start doing because it's just so hard to get up in the morning. So anyway, I'm going to let you go. I think that's all of chapter 2 for you. Make sure to follow or subscribe to this particular playlist, especially if you're working through the book with me. Like I said before, I bought this book at, I think, half.com, which is a subsidiary of eBay. I'm not paid to do anything for them. It's just where I got it. And I got it for 75 cents for a copy of it, and then like $2 for shipping. And it's a really solid book, and I find it really helpful. And if you have a couple extra bucks, just jump on Amazon or whatever it is that you use and grab a copy. I'd love to have you working through it with me. I'd love to see comments and stuff about it, because really this is a lot. I mean, it's a huge book. This is how far along we are thus far, and it's only going to get harder from here, from what I've heard. So I'm going to do my best to keep up with it. Make sure to like and subscribe, thumbs up the video, helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate every comment that I get. I will try to respond within 24 hours of whatever comments that show up, and I have another art video coming up pretty soon here, so be ready for that. Anyway, I will see you later. Bye!